The call. In Scream, everything begins with a phone ringing in a quiet house. Casey Becker, the perfect small-town girl. Pretty, smart, confident. She's home alone, making popcorn, waiting for her boyfriend. Then, the phone rings. At first, it's playful, a stranger's voice, teasing, funny, maybe even charming. But it doesn't stay that way. The questions get darker, the voice colder. And then he says it. He can see her. The game begins. Her boyfriend Steve is tied up outside. If she answers wrong, he dies. She plays along, shaking, her voice breaking. She guesses wrong. The lights flicker, and through the window she sees him. Steve's stomach is torn open. Now there's no more game, only terror. Glass shatters. Ghostface appears. Casey runs. Through the kitchen, out the door, barefoot on the grass. But he's faster. The knife comes down again and again, each stab cutting off her screams. Her parents come home to silence. Only the phone line hums, still open, carrying their daughter's final breath. Outside, her body hangs from a tree. The night in Woodsboro has just begun. The meal. In Alien, curiosity kills faster than any creature. Kane, calm, professional, always the first to explore. When the Nostromo lands on that strange planet, he's the one who looks inside the egg. And when it opens, it attacks. The facehugger latches on, tight. They try to cut it off, but its blood burns like acid. And then, just as suddenly, it lets go. Kane wakes up, laughing, eating, back to normal. At least, that's what they think. Dinner is served. Laughter fills the room. Then, silence. Kane coughs, once, twice. He clutches his chest. The crew rushes in. Blood blooms through his shirt. He convulses. And then it happens. A wet, tearing sound. His chest splits open, blood spraying across the table. And from the hole, a small, screaming creature bursts free. It takes one look at its new world and runs. Kane's body lies still. Dinner just became a nightmare. The Fall. In Fall, fear isn't just about heights. It's about being trapped with your own mind. Hunter, the fearless one, the thrill seeker, the friend who always said yes to danger. When Becky lost her husband in a climbing accident, Hunter thought one more climb could fix everything. The B-67 TV tower, 2,000 feet of rusted steel. They were supposed to conquer it. Instead, it conquered them. Stranded at the top. No food, no water, no way down. The wind howls, the metal groans, and vultures circle above. Becky's losing hope, and Hunter tells her to stay strong. But something feels off. Hunter's leg, torn, dried blood caked to her skin. Her voice, distant, hollow. When Becky asks what happened to her shoe, Hunter pauses. Then she says quietly, "I fell." The truth hits. Hunter's been dead the whole time. Her body lies far below, broken on the tower's antenna. The friend Becky's been talking to isn't real. It's her grief, her guilt, her mind trying to survive. 2,000 feet up, she's not just fighting the height, she's fighting herself. The freeze. In Jason X, horror takes a leap into the future. But Jason Voorhees doesn't change. After being captured and cryogenically frozen, Jason is accidentally thawed out centuries later by a team of students exploring the ruins of Earth. They bring his body aboard their spaceship, believing he's just another relic from the past. They should have known better. Adrian, one of the crew's scientists, begins examining Jason's body in the lab. She's confident, calm, even amused by the killer's reputation. But as she turns her back, Jason's fingers twitch. Moments later, he's awake. He grabs her from behind, slamming her against the metal counter. She fights, reaching for anything to defend herself. But Jason spots something better. A tank filled with liquid nitrogen. He shoves her face into it, holding her there as frost spreads across her skin. In seconds, her head freezes solid. Jason pulls her back, looks at his work, and smashes her face against the counter. Her skull shatters like glass. The camera lingers on the icy remains, cold, silent, and brutally efficient. Even in space, Jason finds new ways to kill. The bottle. In Freaky, the Blissfield butcher turns an ordinary town into a playground of creative violence. It starts like any other party night. Laughter, music, and a few kids looking for trouble. Isaac, one of the teens, jokes around, drinking, unaware that death is already in the house. The butcher, inside the body of a high school girl after a cursed body swap, moves silently through the halls. When Isaac crosses his path, there's nowhere to run. He grabs a wine bottle, swinging it like a weapon. But the butcher catches him easily, overpowering him with unnatural strength. The bottle shatters, glass glinting under the light. Before Isaac can scream, the butcher jams the jagged end into his mouth, then pushes deeper, harder, until the neck of the bottle breaks inside his throat. Blood pours down his chin as he chokes, gurgling for air. Then silence. The butcher steps back, watching him drop, cold, calm, almost curious. Another victim claimed, and the night of the Blissfield butcher has only just begun. The dance. In Suspiria, 2018, horror doesn't come from shadows, it comes from movement. The story follows Susie Banyan, a young American dancer who joins a prestigious ballet academy in Berlin. But beneath the music and mirrors, something dark stirs. The academy hides a coven of witches, and every step on the dance floor has power. Olga, one of the company's dancers, suspects the truth. She confronts Madame Blanc and the others, furious, terrified, then storms out of rehearsal. But she doesn't get far. The witches cast their spell, locking her in a mirrored studio alone. At the same moment, Susie begins to dance in another room. Every twist of her arm, every spin of her body becomes a curse on Olga. Invisible hands seize her. Bones snap. Her body bends and folds against her will. She's thrown to the ground, her limbs twisting in impossible angles. Her jaw dislocates, ribs crack, eyes wide in silent agony. The mirrors reflect every moment, a ballet of pain and control. By the end, Olga is a mangled, broken figure, still alive, but begging for release. The witches arrive, calm and graceful, and quietly drag what's left of her body away. In Suspiria, death isn't just brutal, it's choreographed. The rack. In Saw the 3, pain isn't random, it's personal. Timothy Young isn't a killer, but he's guilty. Years ago, he caused a drunk driving accident that took the life of a man named Dylan. Now that man's father, Jeff Denlon, has been chosen to face Jigsaw's test. When Jeff enters the room, he finds Timothy strapped inside a massive metal frame. His arms, legs, and head are locked into rotating clamps, each one ready to twist. Jigsaw's voice plays over the speakers, explaining the rules. Forgive the man who killed your son, and you can save him. Do nothing, and the rack will turn. Jeff hesitates, anger and grief battling inside him. As the timer starts, the machine begins to move. Timothy screams as his limbs twist, bones snapping one by one. First the arms, then the legs, each rotation slower, more excruciating than the last. His body contorts, bones grinding, flesh tearing, until only his head remains. Jeff finally reaches for the key, but it's too late. The final rotation begins. Timothy's neck snaps with a sickening crack. Silence follows. The lesson is clear. Forgiveness came too late. Vance Norris wasn't a bad man, just a quiet geologist stuck with a crew of scientists at the edge of the world. Outpost 31 was frozen, silent, and already haunted by what they dug up in the ice. Norris didn't know when it happened, when the alien thing got to him. Maybe it was while they handled the burned remains of the Norwegian dog, maybe earlier, but by the time he clutched his chest and hit the floor, the man they knew was already gone. Dr. Copper rushes in, shouting for the defibrillator. The others gather, tense and scared. McCready stands back with the flamethrower, watching. The first shock hits Norris's chest. Nothing. Another jolt, and then it happens. His chest caves in and opens like a trap, splitting wide with rows of teeth. The doctor's hands disappear inside the maw. Blood sprays. The crew freezes in horror. Norris's body convulses, twisting into something not human. His head stretches, skin tearing, veins snapping. Then it pulls free from his body, sprouting legs, scuttling across the floor like a spider from hell. McCready burns it all. Fire, smoke, and screams fill the room. One less thing to fear. Billy Loomis was the perfect mask. Quiet, charming, a little dark, the kind of boyfriend every horror movie pretends is safe. But underneath that calm stare was something rotten. His mother left. His father cheated with Sydney's mom. And now, Billy wanted payback. He planned everything, down to the last drop of blood. With Stu as his partner, the two turned Woodsboro into a playground of knives and fake screams. The scene begins quiet. Sydney stands frozen, eyes wide, every nerve in her body screaming danger. Billy calls her name, trying to sound like the hero. Then, out of nowhere, Ghostface lunges from the doorway. The knife sinks deep into Billy's chest. Sydney gasps, her whole body trembling as the blood spreads fast across his white shirt. A second stab hits even harder. Billy drops, choking out half a sound before falling limp on the floor. Sidney crawls toward him, shaking, whispering his name. He's still. Ghostface stands over them, silent. A single shush with a gloved finger. Then the killer turns away, leaving her to drown in fear. Freddy Krueger was never meant to die easy. Once a child killer, burned alive by vengeful parents, he came back as something worse. A demon living in dreams, feeding on fear, turning sleep into a slaughterhouse. But in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, the Dream Master, he finally meets someone who can fight him on his own turf. Alice Johnson, the quiet survivor who's lost everyone she loves, now carries the strength and souls of her fallen friends. Freddy doesn't know it yet, but his nightmare's about to end. The scene opens inside a broken church. Light leaks through shattered glass. Freddy steps from the shadows, claws glinting, voice dripping with mockery. Alice stands her ground, holding a shard of stained glass like a weapon. The voices of Freddy's victims whisper through the air, haunting, almost childlike. Freddy laughs, but the laugh fades when Alice throws his own words back at him. She drives the glass into his chest. A blinding light bursts out. Freddy's skin cracks. The faces of his victims push through, screaming for release. His body twists, melting, tearing apart. And from Fire 2, we climb straight up to Hunter's fatal fall.